Mr. Producer. Mr. Producer forgot to push the go live button on the yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, there we go. Hello, Mr. Producer.
I totally botched that up.
we had it all. It was going ready. I mean, it was rocking and rolling. Good intro and everything. And just you forgot the go live button. And now it's by the way, it says something is required. Says
that's don't worry. The other ones are running fine. But it's the Krampus thing that you threw me off. Oh,
is that what it was? So I threw you off because I was talking about Krampus. Is that what it is?
I'm blaming it on you.
You're the one who threw me off because you're dressed up as Krampus.
Anyway, Merry Christmas to you. I'll see you next Friday, but Merry Christmas and Merry Christmas to everybody that's watching and listening.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Producer. Appreciate it.
See ya.
All right. Oh, I tell you. See, I can use the excuse. I'm naturally blonde. So I'm allowed to say that. Now, I don't really know what's going on with Mr. Producer. Perhaps maybe too much apple juice. That's what happens sometimes. You know, you drink too much apple juice and there's like you get that sugar rush. You know what I mean? That's what happens. A sugar rush, too much apple juice. I think that's what's going on. All right, everybody, I'm Bishop Long. I appreciate you being here. By the way, before we go on to further in the presentation, Mr. Producer, roll that footage.
Fans of Bishop James Long, the renowned exorcist and paranormal expert on KGRA digital broadcasting. Now you can carry his wisdom with you. Our Bishop James Long collection features blessed apparel such as St. Benedict hats and tees, as well as home items to protect and inspire. Elevate your spiritual journey. Go to kgradb.com/shop and discover the Bishop James Long merch today.
Purchase them because 100% of the profits that's going to go to me, I'm donating to the MKS Kids Foundation. 100%. And also, I would like you to go to my site, and that is Bishop James Long, Long. You follow it up with a .com. And before the trolls say, I knew you were doing this for money. See, if you've asked them to spell money, they won't be able to do it. But nonetheless, I do ask you to go to my site, Bishop James Long. You follow that with a .com. And scroll down to the middle, and you're going to see 2 brand new books. If you're a paranormal investigator, because tonight is Paranormal Friday Nights. This is a paranormal investigator's training manual, 260 pages. There it is. 100%. 100%. So, trolls, 100%. I'll go slower so you'll understand. That means everything. See, when I say 100%, that means the whole thing. You know, it just all of it. Okay. I have to explain it to the trolls. I mean, we got to be nice. So 100% of the profits that would go to me as a community, we are donating it all to the MKS Kids Foundation. 100%. Are you going to heaven when your life is over? You bet I am. And also, there is a book here that I just finished. It is the 7 Archangels Explained, right here. 7 Archangels Explained. It's a pretty thick book, and it is my work. So, you know, when an author writes a book, they have a right to say, well, I deserve the income from my work. But again, 100% of the profits from this book, we're donating to the MKS Kids Foundation. It is an orphanage that we are partnering with. So again, 250 pages for this book here. And it does have an ISBN. It's going to global distribution soon, as well as the paranormal training manual. So please, again, when you go and you pick those up, I mean, you're helping the MKS kids, an orphanage, and I think that's wonderful. I think anytime we can give back, that's great. I do have also the Clergy Handbook of Prayers. If you want that, that's on the site too. So there's a lot of things for you if you want to check them out. And if you want to go to the church's site, you can certainly do so as well. USOCC, and you follow that up with a .org. USOCC, and follow that up with .org. And well, how do you know if you're going to go to heaven? Well, Jesus told you. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Plain and simple. Unfortunately, it's not so simple these days because there's so many people that are wanting to troll and judge and condemn. So they forget that one part, the second part that Jesus, it wasn't, by the way, that wasn't a suggestion that Jesus made. That was a commandment. Not a suggestion. It's a commandment. It's not an option. So for those of you that continue to use righteous judgment, yeah, let the devil keep convincing you of that. Go ahead. Go ahead and let the devil keep convincing you of righteous judgment. Okay. Okay. Then you'll be righteously judged too by the real judge when you meet him face to face. That's real talk. So just, that's it, you know? Okay. What about it? All right, everybody. So for those of you who are new, this is how we run the presentations. So during the week, I'm always trolled by trolls because they always say, you're a fake bishop because you never talk about theology. So every Friday night when we do paranormal, the trolls always say, you never talk about theology. However, I don't ever see them here with us when we have night prayer, Sunday through Friday, praying for people. They're never here. I don't ever see them during Bible study either. That's interesting. And for those of people who always during the week say, why don't you do more paranormal? Well, we do on Friday nights. So that's what I'm saying. There's always going to be people complaining. I tell you, friends, you can give people $1 million and they will stab you in your back because you did not give them 2 million. And that is absolute true talk, 100%. So just remember, friends, ignore the people. And I want to say one more thing. We're going to get into a very cool conversation. As you all know, for those of you who are new, because there's a lot of people who are new to this presentation. Well, thank you. Wonderful, Sheena. Thank you. Remember, never accept criticism from someone that you would not go to for advice. That is how I live my life. And I strongly encourage you to live your life in the same manner, because if you're going to be worrying about what everybody else is going to say, well, then you're never living your life. Because there's always going to be people doing this. That's all they do. They yap. It's like a little chihuahua. You just got to ignore them. Say, okay, go away. So never, ever pay attention to those people, because they offer nothing but disruption of your life. So that's how we do. We do not, under any circumstances, take their criticism as gospel. But tonight we're going to have a very cool show. Let's get into it. It is going to be about Krampus. Now, so far on TikTok, moderators, if it becomes too difficult, let me know and I'll put sub chat on like that. Simple. Thank you very much. And I won't give it a second thought. And then the only people that'll be able to chat are subscribers. And then the hater gators are going to, you can go in your little groups and say, oh, how Bishop Long is a fake bishop because he doesn't let us troll, whatever. Go call the ambulance. But let me know if it gets too bad, moderators, because I already see a lot of people being blocked already. Imagine. Otherwise, let's just enjoy it. It's Friday night. We're talking about Krampus. All right, here we go. Let's get into this. This is a really cool, I think this is going to be one of those, a lot of people don't know about Krampus. It's not as big in the United States as it is like in Europe. In Europe, it's huge, huge. Well, Will, actually, I'll answer that question, Will. I actually know the new Archbishop. Actually, he was a priest when I was going through the seminary at Loyola University in Chicago. He is phenomenal. So the new Archbishop that is in New York, top notch. Really, I mean, this guy, they could not have chosen a better bishop. I will say that about him. He was just amazing. No, he's a good guy. He is a good guy. He was actually at Loyola University. So he was in my undergraduate program. He was a priest and just phenomenal. Just everybody liked him. Everybody liked him in the seminary. Everybody liked him at his parish. He was just one of those priests that you just admired. So there you go. I think that's great. All right, we're going to get into the presentation Krampus, everybody. That is what we're going to do. Here's how I do this. For those of you who are new, I do a presentation. I don't just look at the computer and say, okay, now let's entertain each other. I actually do a lecture, a presentation. There's 45 pages of notes that I have that I put together for this show just for you guys. So what I do, well, thank you very much, Ellie, thank you. What I do is I do the presentation, then we can chat and you can ask questions after the presentation. All right, let's go to the shadow edge of reality here. Tonight, I'm going to take you into a realm where myth, darkness collide. It is a realm where the legend of Krampus actually still lingers very much today, stalking the icy shadows of our winter nights. So this isn't I want to make this very clear to all of you. This isn't a cozy holiday story. No, it's a journey into the abyss, to dark, primal force that many believe still haunts the abandoned woods, the frostbitten villages, and the depths of human fear. In some locations, this creature is taken quite seriously. Now, for people in America, maybe not so much because it didn't really take root. So legends whisper that Krampus isn't just a relic old superstition. Some truly believe that he is real, an ancient, bloodthirsty beast, sinister shadow that waits for the right moment to emerge from the darkness. So he has twisted horns, savage claws, piercing glowing eyes. And these aren't just stories. Many people say they are warnings. Now, for those of you who are too slow to understand, this basically is a legend in many of the European countries. And my goodness gracious, there are people who take this quite seriously. Now, whether I believe it or not is irrelevant. What is relevant is that I'm telling a presentation and giving a presentation on a creature that many people in Europe believe is true. There are some people believe that Bigfoot is a great, big, huge, stupid myth. Okay, and then I asked them, how many times have you went out Bigfoot hunting? Never. Okay, got it. Anyway. So friends, draw the curtains tight, hold your breath, listen carefully. Because once the darkness stirs, it may never leave you. So let's begin at the very beginning. Long before Christmas, long before the stories that we know today, we're going to delve into the roots of a creature that allegedly was born from icy horror, ancient chaos, primal fear, aka trolls. Krampus. In the shadowy depths of prehistory, early Europeans celebrated the longest night of the year. That's called the winter solstice. So the dark, endless night was filled with terrifying spirits, malevolent entities, feral beasts that really embodied chaos itself. You got to remember, a lot of people truly believe this. And I'm going to try to put you in the scene to where I can understand why they would. So imagine ancestors cowering, terrifying around flickering fires, whispering prayers to ward off bloodthirsty forest demons. They're horned, clawed monsters with eyes like burning coals. Their presence felt like the icy gust of the howling wind. See, over centuries, this primal terror was deeply embedded into folklore. So the earliest depictions of show a horned, shaggy, beast-like figure, an amalgamation, if you will, of like a goat, a wolf, a demon, and it's cloaked in darkness and chaos. So his twisted horns seem to curl many time into infinity, symbols of primal power, wild, chaotic forces. He has a long, barbed tongue, jagged teeth, evoke a visceral sense of hunger, ferocity. So let me break into and explain how this transformed with Christianity. So today, for those of you just joining, we're talking about Krampus and the history of Krampus. So when Christianity marched into Europe, pagan beasts were demonized. They were twisted into evil spirits and demons and devils, and they absolutely believed that these creatures existed. They taught their kids these pagan beasts existed. Krampus's feral, savage nature was retained, but reinterpreted as a demonic creature, a chaos demon sent to punish sinners. So by the 16th century, towns across the Alps, they celebrated a terrifying duality. So St. Nicholas, the benevolent, gift-giving saint, kind and generous, who, by the way, Santa Claus is known for. There really was a Santa Claus. His name was St. Nicholas. And then you have Krampus, the savage, clawed enforcer of moral discipline, violent, unforgiving. So when you see the 16th century, you see this embracing Krampus into, especially in the Alps, into their culture of, okay, Santa Claus gives presents to the good boys and girls, and Krampus punishes the bad ones. So the figure of Krampus emerged from a blend of pagan beliefs and ancient rituals, Christian influences, creating a complex, multifaceted character that was deeply rooted in the region at that time. And one of the earliest known references to a horned demonic figure resembling Krampus dates all the way back to pre-Christian German folklore, where tales of malevolent spirits and wild, untamed creatures, they roamed the wintry mountains. So these beings were often associated with the winter solstice and, of course, the darkest, coldest nights of the year. Now, yeah, and it was terrifying. Absolutely. I mean, embodying the harsh, unforgiving aspects of nature during the time. So with the spread of Christianity throughout Europe, particularly during the Middle Ages, pagan traditions and Christian beliefs, well, they began to intertwine. That resulted in the assimilation of pre-existing folklore into the Christian framework. So all these pagan gods, these pagan monsters that were deeply embedded within the culture, was assimilated into the Christianity, into the Christian framework. And as a result, the figure of Krampus became intertwined with the Christian feast of St. Nicholas, which is celebrated on December, which at that time celebrated, St. Nicholas is on December the 6th. So in this context, Krampus is often depicted as the dark counterpart to St. Nicholas. You know, St. Nicholas, he rewards well-behaved children with gifts and treats. And while St. Nicholas symbolizes benevolence and kindness, Krampus embodies the concept of punishment for those who have misbehaved or strayed from the moral path. Kids were truly, legitimately terrified of Krampus. This was not an imaginary tale to them. This was 100% true. So the duality reflects the old age struggle between good and evil, light, darkness, that really breaks through many cultural and religious traditions. So the name Krampus itself is derived from the old German word, Krampen, which means claw. Claws. That underscores the creature's menacing and otherworldly nature. So Santa Claus. Yeah, pretty cool, isn't it? Now, see, I love history. I'm a history nerd. So early depictions of Krampus often portrayed him as a horned, beast-like figure who had long, pointed tongue, chains, evoking like a primal, untamed power. Thank you. So over time, the legends of Krampus became really intertwined with various, regional customs and festivities, particularly in the observance of Krampusnacht, or what's called Krampus night on the evening of December the 5th. Why December the 5th? Because what happens December the 6th? You celebrate St. Nicholas. December the 5th, you have Krampus. So Krampus began deeply ingrained in the culture at this time. So during Krampusnacht, again, which is as Krampus night, December the 5th, men, they would wear grotesque, nightmarish masks. They carved from dark, weathered wood with twisted, snarling faces, long horns, burning, glowing eyes, and that would terrify kids. And these masks are terrifying enough to haunt your nightmares. The men, they were called Krampus, and they would run through villages. They chased children. And they would actually whip them, not hard, but whip them with birch branches and terrifying the townsfolk into submission. So during Krampusnacht, individuals, they dressed up as Krampus. They would roam the streets. They visited homes, engaged in playful yet eerie interactions with the community, often involving loud, oh, bullshit. Your live is not eligible for recommendation, is restricted to search results because it redirects users to purchase products outside of TikTok. Oh, go to hell. It's called doing a fundraiser for an orphanage. And I know you have a problem with that, TikTok, but we don't. And I will continue to let people know that we have a site that they can go to and they can get these books. So in fact, we can actually give money to the orphanage. So instead of you sitting on billions of dollars, why don't you donate to the orphanage so that I don't have to give every single penny away that I have from selling these books to them? Instead, you send me a little notice saying that our live is restricted. I did curse, and I'm in my 50s, and you're not my mom, you're not my dad. And I can also speak other French words. Would you like to hear them? C'est la vie. TikTok, typical. Disgusting. Anyway, before I was rudely interrupted. So during Krampusnacht, individuals, they dressed up as Krampus. They would roam the streets, and often involving, they had chains and bells and frightening, well, thank you very much, thank you, frightening costumes. And these traditions, thank you, rooted in ancient pagan rituals and Christian folklore, they've endured for centuries, serving as really a testament to the enduring influence of Krampus. So today, the figure of Krampus continues to captivate the imagination of people all around the world, reflecting the timeless appeal of folklore and even the enduring power of myth. So what happened in folklore, Krampus is often depicted as a demon figure. I mean, really scary. So on the night of December the 5th, on Krampusnacht, people in the Alpine regions, they're the ones that started participating in parades where individuals dressed as Krampus, they roam the streets. And they would frighten, the amusing onlookers. And in folklore and tradition, Krampus is a menacing, well, thank you. Krampus is a menacing, otherworldly figure deeply embedded into the Alpine regions of Central Europe. And as the dark counterpart to the benevolent Santa Claus, Krampus embodies the concept of punishment for those who have misbehaved. So, I mean, really, he serves as a stark contrast to the jolly and generous nature of St. Nicholas. And in many traditions, Krampus is said to accompany St. Nicholas during his visits to homes and communities, because he then puts out punishment to the naughty children, while St. Nicholas rewards the well-behaved kids with gifts and treats. Let's just imagine that. You're a kid, and then you have Santa Claus coming through the door, and you're like, yay, Santa Claus, and then you have this creature coming right behind him. You're like, oh, no. Well, that's not good. Whoops. So the observance of Krampusnacht, December the 5th, it is central element, thank you, of the folklore surrounding Krampus. Now, some of these men who are dressed up in these costumes could have loud bells, chains, frightening costumes. And in some regions, it's believed that Krampus, again, and even in America, will have some like a birch branches. And they'll go around pretending to punish people who've been bad. But the imagery, I think, and the symbolism associated with Krampus and folklore and tradition, they're deeply rooted in themes of morality, consequence, good and evil. Again, Krampus represents the darker aspects of the human psyche, aka trolls, embodying the consequences of wayward behavior, the need for moral order within society. Thank you. But St. Nicholas and Krampus, it reflects the age-old struggle between good, evil, light, darkness. So in this way, Krampus represents a really complex, multi-faceted figure that's deeply embedded in Central European folklore and tradition. I'm curious if any of you, did you grow up in Europe, and were you ever taught? There are some people that are actually taught about Krampus in the United States, but it really didn't become big into the States until a little bit later on. But I mean, there are people who still 100%, they absolutely participate in Krampusnacht. I mean, that is a big, big festival for a lot of people. You was in Germany as a child, really? So, Rhonda, did you experience that? There's some people saying, yeah. Very interesting. So, you heard about, so some masks are cursed. And, some believe some masks have the life of their own. And their grotesque features seem almost alive, gnarled and twisted. Many believe that the mask of the Krampus is actually their haunted relics. Some people argue they're even possessed by ancient spirits. This is interesting. Old church records and oral histories confirm the existence of these terrifying festivals. So, like in remote villages, elders would still leave offerings, bread, wine, small sacrifices to appease Krampus, and that would prevent his wrath. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? Because if you notice, prior to Santa Claus, people were offering food, wine, things to appease Krampus. Why do you think we have the milk and cookies for Santa Claus? Now you know where that came from. Because originally it came from Krampus, this evil pagan creature. And you leave out these foods, you leave out something to appease Krampus so that he wouldn't punish. Now, Krampus embodies chaos, uncontrollable force of nature. His horns, his wild fur, savage claws. But these are symbols of the primal animalistic side that some people say we all suppress. A lot of people say he's a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears, the chaos within. Krampus embodies the consequences of misbehavior, the need for moral order within society. And by portraying a fearsome figure that punishes naughty children, the legend of Krampus serves as a cautionary tale, encouraging adherence to societal norms. And the fear of encountering Krampus on Krampusnacht is absolutely something that is real, even in today's society. It's intended to promote good behavior and obedience among kids. And they teach in these European small little sections, they teach that Krampusnacht, you got to be careful. Some believe that Krampus is just an ancient guardian, an entity that still guards the boundaries between the worlds, punishing those who cross them. But let's go into this. I want to try to put you into this situation. I can understand, in the 15th, 16th century, I can understand people being afraid. People who have a cabin, they live out in the woods. And many times they live kind of far away. They're not close to one another. And it's not as if they have street lights. So when they close the door, they hear all kinds of noises in the woods. But imagine, if you will, a small family living in a remote cabin, nestled deep within the snow-laden woods. So that's where you live. The air is crisp, snowflakes dance around, silence is deafening, except for the occasional rustle of branches and the distant howl of the wind. So as winter settles in, the stories told around the flickering fire become darker and more sinister. So the children huddle close, eyes wide open, as their parents recount the tale of Krampus, this horned demon who roams the night, searching for the wicked, eager to punish those who have strayed from the path of righteousness. So picture a family, snugly tucked away in their cabin, the warmth of the fire crackling as they decorate the Christmas tree, oblivious to the darkness encroaching outside. So the legend of Krampus is not just a story. It is a warning whispered through generations. Lock your doors, close your windows. And the parents say, even darting nervously to the shadows beyond the glass, and don't do it. The wind howls outside. Children feel an unsettling chill, not from the cold, but from the scary stories. So one fateful night, the family hears it. A low growl, a sound like thunder rumbling in the distance. It echoes through the silent woods, and the father moves to the window, pulling aside the heavy curtain, and outside, the moonlight casts an eerie glow on the snow, which illuminated the twisting branches of a tree. But there, lurking just beyond the tree line, is a figure unlike any other. It's a hulking shape with fur as dark as the void, eyes glowing with a malevolent hunger. By the way, this story was told to a pastor of a family who actually lived out in these woods. And this is basically a true story from what they believe. So the children grasped, and their hearts were pounding in the chest as the father instinctively locked the door. The sound of the bolt sliding home. Stay quiet, he tells the kids. Well, their eyes are open with terror. They're terrified, but the children can't help but glance out the window. And they believe that they saw something that put them in a frenzy of fear. They saw Krampus standing there. They said he had long, twisted horns silhouetted against the moon, his breath misting in the cold air. And the family huddles together. The warmth of their bodies, a stark contrast to the chill creeping house. Now the growling intensifies according to the father. It actually reverberated through these walls, to the wooden walls. Suddenly the door starts to rattle violently, as if someone is testing their defenses. And the mother clutches her children tightly, and her heart races as she recalls the stories of those who've been taken by Krampus, never to be seen again. So in the folklore, Krampus, he carries a sack. It's a burlap bag filled with wicked children, a grim trophy of his haunting hunt. And as the door shakes open again, the family hears a deep, raspy voice, low and menacing, whispering through the cracks, "Open the door, and your sins will be forgiven." But the parents know better. That's not a plea. It is a lure, a deception. So as the night stretches on, the sound of Krampus grows fainter. And then an eerie silence. The family was actually frozen in fear, unsure if they should even breathe, afraid that they might be, awaken the beasts outside. Hours pass, and just as they begin to think they're safe, the growling returns. This time closer and more insistent. They say that there was a claw, sound like a claw scratching at the door, like a sound reminiscent of like nails on a chalkboard, or You can hear the claws. And then without warning, the power, at that time, they claim that their little gas lighter or whatever, the lamp goes out. That a gust of wind came through and completely blew out their gas light. So they're complete darkness. So panic then ensues, and they scramble for more candles. And the flickering flame, finally, they got it. And it, shows candles dancing, all kind of crazy forms, from the trees. And they claimed that there was a loud crash from the back of the cabin. Something that sounded like something was breaking, something heavy. And the children began screaming, and the parents rushed toward the noise, their instincts screaming for them to protect their young, obviously, but what they find is worse than their worst fears. The back door was shattered. The wood splintered, like kindling. And allegedly they peeked around this doorway. They saw this figure standing behind this big tree. They claimed they saw the horns. What they did see is the eyes were solid red, almost like a fluorescent. The children are terrified with fear. And knowing that the stories these stories are terrifying, the fate that awaits those who have been naughty. And then, of course, this person tells this person, that tells that person, and so on and so on. But you got to understand, that would be terrifying. Now, what the parents say is they heard these really loud screams. I let off several screams, this creature behind this tree. Like they said, of heavy footsteps running away, and a guttural growl of the beast as it runs, to another tree behind another big tree. And the parents are shielding their children, protecting them. And the story ends there. He disappears. So you can understand, if you're living in the woods and your back door of your wooden cabin completely gets obliterated, and you see whatever this creature was, what it is, I don't know. Could have been a bear, I guess maybe. Could have been Bigfoot. Well, perhaps, I don't know. It was something, it destroyed it. It was so terrifying. They went to their pastor, and that was a big issue in that little town. So the legend of Krampus is not confined to one family or one village. It stretches across borders and generations. In some cultures, he is depicted as a companion to St. Nicholas. Dark reminder of the duality of human nature, light and darkness. So as you gather around Christmas trees this year, let's not forget the shadows that dance just out of sight. I want to talk about another encounter that I read that was in some old magazine that I found. It was a while ago when I was doing investigations on Bigfoot and cryptozoology, and I came up on Krampus, and I thought, well, this isn't interesting. So this is an actual report in this small town, this small village. This is terrifying. It was a remote alpine village. A young boy, his name was Johann, and he was known for his restless mischief. So during a snowstorm, he slipped out into the ominous forest, which, ignoring his parents' warning, parents always tell children, never go into the forest, Krampus is there. Well, the snow was thick. The air was very cold. The wind, like the father described, the wind was like it was screaming like a banshee. And then allegedly Johann, his eyes caught a shadow, tall, hulking creature that was cloaked in shaggy darkness with horns. And the beast, he said, had long claws, and it scraped the frozen earth. And the eyes were like a fluorescent piercing through the darkness, he said. Chains rattled behind it. So Johann froze, trembled with complete terror. And the creature's long, barbed tongue flicked out, tasting the cold air. Johann said it was like a snake, how it slithers, and a guttural snarl. and it lunged forward. So claws slashed through the air and tearing at his clothes, and chains, they clanged like really loud. And Johann tried to run, but the beast was faster. Its massive form disappearing in the shadows, leaving behind an echoing growl. The next morning, villagers actually found Johann trembling, clutching his chest. His eyes was with terror. He refused to speak of what he saw. And so he told, finally, years later, much years later, he finally confided in what he experienced. But he was terrified. The next, there was another village, story of a village, a young boy named Lucas. He was kind of notorious for his naughtiness, stealing, teasing, disobedience. Well, Christmas Eve came, and he dared to steal a candy from his neighbor's pantry. Now, for us, it's like, oh, but still, it's stealing. It's bad. So that night, allegedly, he was awakened by the distant, chilling rattle of chains, like the sound of 1,000 icy shackles dragging across stone, and the air grew thick. So suddenly, Krampus allegedly appeared at his window, tall, terrifying, horns, blackened branches, his eyes glowing with a sinister red glow, and Krampus' voice was a guttural, like a gutted growl. And with a swift, brutal motion, he allegedly whipped Lucas with a bundle of jagged birch branches, and Lucas's scream echoed through the cold night. Now, later it was found out that that was the father who did this. So he dressed up in this scary, terrible beast creature, and he didn't spank him hard. He was more terrified that this creature was coming after him. So in this case, thank you, Starlight. In this case, it was later discovered that the father said, yes, I did this. But he never stole candy again from anyone else. This is an interesting one. When I scratch my head and I wonder how true this is. So in Salzburg, this is all in Europe, there is a legend that persists about a cursed demonic mask that was worn during Krampusnacht. So these masks, they're carved from dark, gnarled wood. They're terrifying. They have twisted faces with jagged, toothy mouths and horns that curl. But in this town, it says that they believe once the mask is worn, by the way, this is where the mask, remember the movie The Mask? Where do you think they got it basically from, the concept from? Krampus. See, it's fascinating when you start digging back layers and you're like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that. So what they believed is once a mask of Krampus is worn, it is said to be the wearer is doomed. The wearer is trapped in a nightmare forever haunted by unseen horrors. Yep, Jim Carrey. Some claim that the masks are inhabited by ancient spirits that feed off fear. One year, another man named Johann proudly put on the mask during the festival. And as he danced and roared and scared the kids, something happened, because his scaring the kids became a lot more uncontrollable. And he began to tremble violently. His eyes were wide with terror. And that's when the whispers began to start, voices calling his name from the shadows. Suddenly, he was pulled into like a swirling vortex of darkness, he said. And he would swirl, and then swirl into the woods and disappear. When he reappeared hours later, he was trembling with strange clawed handprints on his arm. He had thank you very much. I like that. Thank you. People offering gifts. That's very nice of you on TikTok. He had a vacant stare. Some say he was stolen by the spirits within the mask, forever lost in the shadow realm. Others believe the masks themselves are portals. So locals swear this is not a matter of if to many people. They swear that they have seen this horned, monstrous figure lurking in the woods. during cold winter nights. And many claim to experience cold spots, chilling, bone-deep cold, when no wind was blowing, and others hear chains dragging, heavy footsteps, guttural growls that seem to come from nowhere. Some have even a fleeting glimpse of that shadowy horn silhouettes. Now, there are some people, you're not going to convince them that Krampus is just a folklore, a legend, a tale. They will absolutely look at you like you've lost your mind. But remember, I think it's vital for all of us to understand that Krampus isn't just a myth. It is a living, breathing nightmare. It's an ancient shadow lingering in the collective consciousness. For me, I love history. And while we can talk about scary stories and ghost stories, I also want to educate people too. Why do so many people still believe that Krampus actually exists? Well, you got to look at the culture. See, in the isolated snowbound villages of Austria, Bavaria, Krampus is deeply embedded into the tradition. The festival, even today, still draws thousands of villagers, and villagers still leave offerings to appease the beast. Now, some people do it just out of tongue in cheek. There are some people that do it because they're absolutely legitimately feared. There have been countless locals that claim to have seen this creature. They hear chains rattling on cold winter nights. They see horns silhouetted against the moon. There have been reports of mysterious footprints, large, paw-like, with claw marks. They appear in the snow. Some say that they've felt unseen claws, even brushed their shoulders. I had a buddy of mine that he lived in Austria, and I spoke to him. He was in the seminary, and we contact each other often. And I sent him a message about this, and he said, "Oh, his village, Krampus is not a myth. Krampus is not a myth at all. Krampus is something that absolutely," and he began talking to me about how it used to be a pagan creature, a demon, and they are absolutely convinced that Krampus exists. And I told him, I said, "Well, you're talking about this creature with the horns," and it's like, I mean, really, how can we believe something like this? And he said, "Well, we don't have all the answers." But he lives, they live out in the woods in this town that they live in. And they're hearing things that they can't explain. And they will not go out at night. Now, there are some that old timers, under no circumstance will they go out at night. Others have actually captured strange flickering images, even on horned figures on their cameras. So Krampus embodies chaos, uncontrollable force, primal fury. His horns symbolizes savage, animalistic instincts. His chains represents the sins that we carry, like guilt, shame, fear, punishment. So really, if you look at it, he's a mirror reflecting our deepest, darkest fears. Some, however, believe that Krampus is an actual ancient guardian, and an entity that that remains in the mountains, lives in the mountains, comes from the mountains, breathes in the mountains. And it maintains cosmic balance, by punishing the wicked. Others see him as a destructive demonic force, period. But psychologically, I think, in my opinion, when you look at this creature, I can absolutely see that Krampus is it's a projection of our shadow self. The parts of us that sometimes we deny and suppress fear. Now, I want to go deeper into his horns. Describe it as spiraling into the abyss, gnarled, twisted, seeming to curl. And they symbolize an untamed wildness of nature, the beast within us all. And by the way, horns are also symbols of power, demonic or divine. And in many cultures, horned creatures are guardians or destroyers. As a matter of fact, okay, there we go. Let me show you something, a horn that Judy Ann purchased. This is a horn that would be considered divine. Does anyone know what that is? This is a shofar. This is a shofar. It's quite sacred. It is a sacred item, certainly in Judaism. But there you can see inside. And then, of course, that is the part you blow into it. This is a powerful, powerful horn. Now, there are many people who believe that in the second coming, or in the Judaism, when the Messiah comes, that there will be a shofar. Now, Christians believe, I believe, in the second coming, and I do believe that the shofar will be used. But when the shofar is used, the heavenly shofar, the earth will rattle. Everything will rattle. As a matter of fact, I'll do this very quickly. Bear with me, because it's pretty cool. I want to share this. Let's see if I have this for you. That is a shofar. That's powerful. Yeah. Now, see, that's that took tremendous lungs. I mean, that's hard to do that. That is not, the shofar is not an easy. It's not an instrument at all. Easy instrument. It's quite challenging. Ram, yeah, and I'm telling you, it is. But that is what I believe what we will hear. Oh yeah, that could be miles. As a matter of fact, there is a rabbi. I found this on Tube to the U, and he blew the shofar, and it just echoed in the valley. I mean, it has its power. Now there are some shofars that are gigantic. I mean, they are massive. That's a really nice shofar. But in this case, horns, as I mentioned, they're ancient symbols, demonic or divine. So Krampus chains, by the way, they're not just mere shackles. There's symbolism in that. They symbolize the weight of guilt and sin. And they're said to rattle loudly as he moves. And some legends say that the chains are cursed. They're haunted relics, possessed by spirits that feed on fear. And when Krampus drags the chains through the snow, it's a harbinger of doom, a sign that chaos and punishment are near. So if you ever watch a movie and you ever see Krampus, as a matter of fact, there's a movie called Krampus, and you see his chains, that's what it symbolizes. His shaggy matted fur, well, that symbolizes also, it's savage, primal forces of the wilderness, uncontrollable, ancient. It's a reminder that beneath our civilized veneer, we're still part beast, capable of violence and chaos and primal instinct. Now, his lurid, long tongue, snarling face, well, that evokes visceral horror. The tongue, dripping sometimes, allegedly, when saliva or blood, signifies hunger, an insatiable craving for chaos and destruction. Thank you. His face is a mask of madness, rage. It's an embodiment of primal instinct. So Krampus really is an archetype, an embodiment of the shadow self. In some traditions, he's seen as a moral guardian, punishing those who fall away from the moral path. So it just depends. And by the way, Krampus is not just a monster. He's a symbol of chaos, primal instinct, shadow of human nature. His terrifying visage forces us to confront our own darkness. Now, I want to share some not too I guess they were not too long ago, several years ago, I should say. Thank you. There were some alleged encounters with Krampus, and I want to share them with you. A friend of mine, he was a former seminarian. I asked him to send me some stories that he has heard in his area, in their towns. And he said, "Oh yeah, I've got several of them." I said, "Please send them to me." Here's one. This was recent. I think this was several years ago. A hiker in the Austrian Alps. He recounts a night when he woke to a bone-chilling, icy cold day. He says he heard chains rattled in the distance, and out of the shadows emerged a hulking, monstrous figure. Dark fur, twisted horns, glowing red eyes seemed to burn right through him. And the hiker said the beast's presence was overwhelming, so oppressive, he felt paralyzed. When he blinked, he was gone. Thank you. But the footprints, massive, paw-like with claw marks, and it haunted his dreams for years. By the way, that individual, that hiker, is no longer hikes in that area ever, because it traumatized him so much that allegedly he saw this. Now, did he see a big bear? Probably. That's what I think. But nonetheless, and it could have been, when I first read about this, I thought, well, could it be sleep paralysis? Yeah, no question. The problem is there are these footprints, but they're massive paw-like with claw marks. I kind of think that was probably, in my opinion, after I read it, sleep paralysis with, and then a bear that was pretty close. That's what I think. The next one I don't understand. The next one, a seasoned hunter in the Bavarian forest. He claims he saw a towering, horned shadow watching him from the darkness. He heard chains like death, and as the beast moved with unnatural silence. And the only thing that was making noises were the chains. When he tried to approach, the figure vanished into the blackness. He said this left a horrible scent of decay and a very ice chill in the air. Also, a woman walking home during a violent winter storm swears that she heard whispers calling her name. She said it was like a deep guttural voice from the shadows. And looking back, she saw a horned, hulking silhouette standing motionless right at the edge of her vision. And when she turned to face it, it disappeared. Only the faint rattling of chains and the echo of a snarl remained. Yeah. Bears don't have horns, but I'm thinking, and that's what I meant by a sleep paralysis. In that gentleman's, because you got to remember, in these areas, Krampus is deeply embedded into the children's mind and psyche from cradle. And so I personally, when I read the first story, I thought, well, it sounds like to me, this was sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is when you're going to sleep or you're waking up and you see this creature, this demon, and you're terrified and you cannot move. I mean, you are catatonic. Can't move, you can't scream, you can't do anything. Because it is the part of the brain, the subconscious brain is what projects that image. Because that's our subconscious, what causes us to dream. And so when you are startled or you're awake or you're slowly entering into the conscious state, the subconscious is still projecting an image that you saw in your dream that you may or may not remember. And then that's why usually after 30 seconds or so, the creature goes away, because then the conscious part of the brain takes control. So that's why I think that he was sleeping and he saw this creature when he woke up. So I think he startled, he couldn't move. Those are all classic signs of sleep paralysis. And then after a little bit, he finally was able to, get out of this catatonic state. And then he saw those paw marks with claws. So personally, I think that's what he saw. He was in a sleep paralysis episode. And then a bear was probably close to him. Okay. So in isolated mountain communities, stories of Krampus are passed down as warnings, shadows that lurk just beyond the edge of the firelight. And festivals still honor him mass processions, offerings, rituals. Countless individuals have claimed to have felt unseen claws, brush against their shoulders. They've seen horned figures watching from the woods, chains rattling, footprints in the snow, massive, clawed, strange. And they appear with alarming frequency. So Krampus serves as a cultural and I think a societal symbol embodying again, good and evil. Now, I think it embodies the consequences of misbehavior and the need for moral order within society, certainly. And by portraying a fearsome figure that punishes naughty children, the legend of Krampus serves as a cautionary tale. And the observance of Krampusnacht and the presence of Krampus in parades and festivities, well, they're integral elements, I think, of culture tradition, keeping this belief alive. And from a psychological standpoint, the legend of Krampus reflects societal fears and the human need for moral order. So the contrasting figures of St. Nicholas and Krampus embody the dual nature of human behavior. And I think also the presence of Krampus in local traditions, festivities, it contributes to the cohesion of communities, providing shared communal narratives and stories. So I think it plays a vital role in shaping the cultural landscape. But through its symbolism and traditions, psychological impact, Krampus serves as a powerful embodiment of the enduring struggle between good and evil. It's interesting because in America, you don't see many people allegedly seeing this Krampus figure because it's really not deeply embedded into the culture, into the American culture, as it is in European culture. But now I will say this, Krampus has gained international attention and become very popular in contemporary culture. So for example, the 2015 horror comedy movie called Krampus, I actually like the movie. It brought renewed interest. So if you've not seen it, you might want to check it out. It's called Krampus and it's 2015. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, and it's also, Krampus has been the subject of numerous literary works, the books, short stories, even academic studies, exploring the origins and the significance in culture and society. And it's Michael Daugherty. He is the director. And so if you've not seen it, I would encourage you to. By the way, the legend of Krampus there's a lot of organizations, festivals, parades, themed events in various parts of the world. There are communities, even enthusiasts, that they have embraced the tradition of Krampusnacht, staging elaborate parades where individuals, they put on these Krampus costumes, and some of these costumes are thousands of dollars. And the popularity of Krampus in popular culture has led to creation of merchandise, collectibles. So if you ever go into a paranormal conference, sometimes you'll see this horned creature with chains. And a lot of people think that they're trying to say that's the devil. No, it's Krampus. Now, some people say Krampus is the devil. But the figure of Krampus continues to capture the imagination of audiences. So, yeah, I think so. I think, what does all this mean? I think Krampus is a creature born from the deepest fears of humanity, a primal archetype, if you will, of chaos and destruction. His horns, his claws, his snarling face, they all symbolize the beast allegedly within, the chaos, the fury, the hunger we suppress. During the dark, long winter nights, this primal force awakens in stories and nightmares and encounters. Now, some believe Krampus is a protector, an ancient force that punishes the wicked to prevent society from falling into chaos. Others see him as pure evil. Now, in a psychological sense, Krampus embodies the shadow self. But I think across cultures, horned beast-like figures embody chaos and wildness. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to restart TikTok because they punished us for letting people know about the books so that we can give money to orphanage. So let me restart TikTok. We're going to restart it right now, okay? And so let me just do this real quick. Yeah, we have to restart it because the problem is we were losing so much of the audience. Because what happens is when TikTok punishes you, they don't put your live on an FYP, and so no one gets to see it, which is wrong. It's just whatever. So let me do this real quick. So bear with me while I fix this. Yeah, it's stupid. It's like, okay, whatever. But it's their platform. It's their platform. Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of, but now, by the way, for those of you who don't know, it has been discovered. Oh, I got to do this. So TikTok ByteDance has sold its U.S. entity. And so therefore, TikTok will not be banned in the United States because it has officially sold. So I think that's good news. That's good news. All right, let me just fix this real quick, and then we'll continue on. There we go. All right. Yay, now we're back. Right. Well, I mean, yeah, but I kind of think it's better. At least it's not gone away. So, oh, it does. Yeah, I agree, Mr. Producer. It is. So, okay. Yeah, so that's the deal, guys. So that's the good news as far as TikTok. For those of you who have not heard, they did sell. They did sign the contract that they're going to sell to American investors. And so therefore, TikTok will not be going away, which is good. So we're going to wrap this up here. And then we're going to go into our, well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. And we're going to go into some of our articles. And we'll just chat. If you have questions, that's great. So as we close tonight's presentation on Krampus, we journeyed into the abyss. And remember, the legend of Krampus isn't just a story. It's a mirror. It's a reflection of the primal chaos that lurks beneath the veneer of civilization, a.k.a. trolls. And many believe he's still watching. Thank you. Waiting in the shadows. An ancient guardian, demon, perhaps a fragment of our collective fears. In the depths of winter, when the nights are long and cold, the shadows grow darker. So keep your doors locked, your fears hidden, and listen carefully, because the darkness isn't just in stories. It is alive, waiting. And who knows, maybe Krampus will be watching you tonight. So you better be good, especially you, Mr. Producer. Thank you. Thank you for the gifts. I appreciate them very much. Thank you. Okay. So let's get into our presentation. Well, we already done the presentation. I want to talk about, Christmas is not pagan. Not at all. All right. So if you have questions, we can get into them. Otherwise, I'm going to go into some more articles that are very, very cool. And I want to share that with you guys. Okay. Yeah, the history of the devil is a very interesting. When you look at the theology behind it, it's quite interesting. And I definitely see, the combating of Pan, the pagan god Pan. Read the Dracula one. Huh? Jax, was that to me? The new theme park. I have no idea what you're referring to. I don't know what you're talking about. There's a new Dracula theme park? No, come on. All right, hold on. That I've got to check this out. Okay, all right, now you know where I'm going. Okay, where is this? Whoa! Oh, Romania, of course. Jerks. Those jerks are in Romania. Listen to this. Thank you for letting me know that. Goodness gravy. A 1.1 billion billion Dracula theme park is coming to Romania. Wow, 1.1 billion. This is phenomenal. So listen to this. Dracula Land is privately funded entertainment complex planned just 15 minutes from the international airport. At its core is a sprawling theme park covering roughly 192 acres with more than 40 attractions spread across 6 immersive lands. Construction is expected to begin in September 2026, with an opening targeted as early as 2027. The goal is not a small attraction or a seasonal park, but a fully built entertainment destination designed to stand alongside Europe's biggest names. 6, oh, man, that looks pretty amazing. 6 themed lands. Listen to that. Each area of Dracula Land is designed as its own world, drawing from Gothic literature, folklore, and mythology. And I'm sure there will be people there who will be wearing Twilight memorabilia. But don't worry, no one will sparkle in the sun. Now, but honestly, I will say this. I will say Twilight was really, really good. I think they did a good. Now, sometimes, it's a little. Anyway, for Transylvania. So, a forest and village landscape inspired by the Carpathian Mountains, featuring roller coasters, dark rides, water attractions, traditional market spaces. Then you have Dracula's Castle, the park's visual centerpiece with castle ruins, an artificial lake, a maze, interactive walkthroughs, high-speed bat-themed coaster through the catacombs. The next one is the Family Kingdom, a brighter, family-focused zone inspired by mythical creatures from around the world with gentler rides, live shows, 4D cinema, and a toddler-friendly attraction. London Town, foggy Victorian streets featuring vampire hunting parkour courses, obstacles challenges, ship swings, lake boats, and a horse and carriage track ride. The Port of New Orleans is number 5, a Gothic take on Mardi Gras, complete with jazz energy, carnival games, scenery, bayou. That's a bayou. It's a bayou scenery and a dueling werewolf roller coaster. Pretty cool. And Moonlit District. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. It's a grand entrance area built for spectacle with projection shows, carousels, exhibitions, and a nighttime entertainment. Wow, that's pretty cool. That is really neat. Yeah, that would be. Wouldn't it be neat? We gotta win the lottery, so we can head all over there. So it's a huge, gigantic field trip, except for the trolls. Trolls, you can't come. You got to stay under the rock where you came from. So you're not allowed to join. But I mean, that's pretty neat, isn't it? Well, of course, that's not going to be out until, goodness gracious, we're talking 2027. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, actually, maybe we should bring the trolls along and introduce them to Dracula. Hey, Dracula, we have some people that want to meet you. Okay, here's some wine. I never drink wine. All right. Well, we don't. Yeah, we don't want to make Dracula sick. All right, here we go. So this is interesting. Have you guys heard this? It's like, why not? Okay. I have Saint Benedict medals that are blessed in the old rite at every door and window. Amen. Health, rest, okay, good. Yeah, Gregorian chant's wonderful. I love Gregorian chanting. This is by T.K. Randall. He writes this. If you guys have not seen this, here's a creepy video that shows a ghostly vanishing face in a car in Argentina. And something strange, it says in Erie, was picked up on camera outside a hospital in Mendoza recently. The clip, which has since gone viral, was recorded by the individual, possibly a doctor, who works at the hospital, who has been on night shift at the time of the incident. The strangeness began when he noticed what appeared to be a face looking back at him from one of the front seats of a car that happened to be parked outside. And grabbing his phone to record footage of what he was seeing, the man watched as the face seemed to move up and down, right and back again, as though someone was trying to duck out of sight. Creeped out, he cautiously approached the vehicle, only to discover that there was no one inside. And when he went back to where he had been standing previously, however, the face reappeared. Now, while it is reasonable to suggest that what he had filmed was some sort of strange optical illusion, how exactly it was being produced, what was creating the illusion of a face, how it was moving. And according to the original post on Instagram, the sighting had been preceded by a loud bang. So anyway, it's a fascinating, if you've not seen it, it really is fascinating. It does look to me, when you see it, it looks like a face to me. Now, there is a term called pareidolia. And yes, I get it. That's a fair argument. Pareidolia is, for example, if you look up at the clouds and this person says, well, I see a bear running down and eating berries. And you see, it's a cloud. It's a cloud. Now, I don't see a bear running around the tree eating berries and singing Kumbaya. What are you talking about? Nonetheless, you know, it's pareidolia. But this, you can clearly see something. I saw the video. And while I get the pareidolia argument, I don't know. I think there's something else. So, okay. All right, then, Daniel. Good. Okay. It was interesting. If you've not seen it, you might want to take a look at this, guys. It's online, and you can watch it. It's going everywhere. It has been gone viral. So just what I did is you can just type in the vanishing face in car Argentina, and you'll be able to see it. The thing is when so many people see it, and it's pretty clear, then I don't know if we can argue pareidolia, because pareidolia is like, well, I don't see it. You see it, I don't see it. You know, it's kind of like, well, some people see it, some people don't. But everybody who's seen the video says, yeah, it's clearly right there. So it's interesting. Okay. And by the way, if you have questions, you can feel free to jump in there and ask the questions. I'll do the best I can to answer them. All right. I also have a lot of really very cool articles that we haven't got to. So, yeah. And for those of you just joining us, so I'm Bishop Long, and this is our Friday night paranormal. This is the only night in the entire week for 2 hours we actually have a paranormal show. The rest of the week is dedicated to night prayer and Bible study. So one night a week, only 2 hours for an entire week, we dedicate to the paranormal. That's it. Okay. Well, thank you there, Big. And Johanna can't be a normal human being. And of course, they had to be blocked. Okay. Imaginary friends. Bethany, that's a good, I think there are sometimes, I've had cases where there were children that were seeing these people, these friends, and it kind of startled, the parents, and they felt very uncomfortable with it. And we went into the home, we investigated, we did capture EVPs. EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena. So we have digital recorders. And, well, all right, excellent there, Aesthetic. 200 days, that's great. So I think there's something there, because I like I said, I've had cases where children saw these imaginary beings. The parents didn't see them, but they did. And we captured some evidence that clearly, I think, demonstrated there was something was there. Okay. Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. Hope you're having a very blessed day. Hopefully all of you are having a blessed day. By the way, I want to remind everyone that we will be here. I know Christmas is next Thursday. Next Friday is the 26th. I am a workaholic. I believe in work. So I will be here on the 26th. I will be here on Christmas Eve. I want to let everybody know the schedule first. That way we'll get into the other articles. So the Christmas Eve is the 24th. I will be here. Right now, as it's scheduled, I'm going to have Mass at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard on the 24th, only on TikTok. It's too difficult to have it on all the other platforms. So I will have it on the 24th, Christmas Eve Mass. Then we will have Bible study at 8 o'clock. Then we will have night prayer at 10 o'clock, all on Christmas Eve. On Christmas Day, the 25th, we will have our regular scheduled night prayer. Now, Christmas Eve will be here. Christmas Day will be here. The 31st is on a December 31st is on a Wednesday, rather. I'm still going to be here. I will have not mass on Wednesday. I will have Bible study and I will have night prayer. It will be on New Year's Eve. So I don't take off. I like working. It's just part of my DNA, I guess. Okay. Any thoughts on aliens, on the thought of them being demons, on them using it as a great deception to create doubt in the faithful? A lot of people ask me about the aliens. Here's the deal. What I tell people about this. Demons don't need spaceships. So I think that's very important to remember. There are a lot of UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenal items, beings, things, objects. There is something, I believe, we have captured that clearly indicates to me that there is something there, intelligent life. So demons don't need aircraft. They don't need UAPs. They have no desire for it. They have no need for it. So because of that and that alone, I think there's something with alien life. There are too many people. There are too many people that not only are seeing these unidentified objects, but there are also people who have absolutely swear that they have been abducted. Now, that can be a different argument. You can say, well, there could be XYZ, whatever it might be. I think, and even Rome, Rome they have an observatory. A lot of people don't know. Rome has an observatory. Even the lead astronomer there in Rome, who is a Roman Catholic priest, said that if aliens are real, which is quite probable, that he would even baptize them. So I just think that the idea that we're the only species in the universe, I don't agree with that. I just simply don't. Only because when you think of how big our solar system is in of itself, and we're relatively small compared to the universe. You can travel from here to Jupiter, going 42,000 miles per hour. It will take you 10 years just to get there. And we're a small solar system. We're very small. There are billions of galaxies just like ours. Billions. So I think there's something, I just don't know what. By the way, speaking of aliens, but see, a lot of people say, nowhere does it say on the Bible that God created aliens. Nowhere in the Bible does it also say that we have computers, we have antibiotics, we have rockets, we have telephones, we have the ability to communicate with each other right now. Nowhere in the Bible does it say we have that either. That's not the point of Scripture at all. The point of Scripture is descriptive and prescriptive. You got to understand the difference between the two. So descriptive is passages in the Bible that describe what was happening to a certain people at a certain time for a specific reason. That's descriptive. And to apply those lessons to our lives today in the 21st century doesn't work. For example, we don't go around picking up stones, throwing it at each other because we've sinned. Thankfully, we don't do that anymore. Those are descriptive. Prescriptive, well, it's different. Things that you should do. Speaking of aliens, I want to talk about this Three-Eye Atlas. It's still. I think this is a comet. It's a unique comet. I will grant it. It's an interstellar object, which makes it even that more. Look, I'm a nerd. I went to space camp as a kid. I mean, that was like Santa Claus land for me. But this object is quite peculiar. So T.K. Randall writes this. Listen to this. After months of speculation, we will soon get our best views yet of the mysterious interstellar interloper. Well, certainly, yeah, Danica. But of course, that's completely different time, different reason. So by now, just about everyone will have heard Three-Eye Atlas, an interstellar object that's thought by most scientists to be a comet that has been passing through our solar system over the last few months. Most of the intrigue surrounding the object comes courtesy of vocal minority, including Harvard professor Avi Loeb, who believe that there is a reasonable chance, could be, the Three-Eye Atlas could be an artificially constructed object controlled by an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, could be. But evidence of this comes in the form of various anomalies concerning the object's speed, composition, trajectory that Loeb in particular has interpreted as evidence of artificial construction. It slows down, it speeds up. However, we can look at gravitational pull and argue, well, perhaps maybe it's the gravitational pull of a particular planet or moon. Any questions about the nature of the origins of Three-Eye Atlas, however, may finally be answered this week. By the way, tonight, may finally be answered, because this visitor is set to make its closest approach to Earth tonight, December the 19th. In other words, there will never be a better time to observe and photograph it. By the way, Mr. Producer has his little astronomy, a really neat setup that he has. I don't know if you're still with us or if you're drinking, taking a break and drinking some apple juice. But if you could let us know, will you be going live to see if you could film this Three-Eye Atlas? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fascinating. Mr. Producer sometimes does a multitask behind the scenes. So if you are there, Mr. Producer, let us know if you'll be showing this Three-Eye Atlas later on tonight. That'd be pretty fantastic. Yeah, behave, Mr. Producer. We'll ask him again. But although, by the way, it would only venture, within 168 million miles of the Earth, nearly twice the distance from the Earth to the Sun. That should be enough, however, to get some pretty good pictures of it. There, Mr. Producer has responded. Let's do him, sir. No, best to use the telescope to view. All right. Well, there we go, guys. Anyway, will that be enough to put all the mystery and intrigue surrounding the Three-Eye Atlas to bed? Well, probably not, especially for those who still believe that it could be artificially constructed. So NASA, meanwhile, has long remained adamant that this is little more than a comet. It says it looks and behaves like a comet, and all evidence points to it being a comet, said NASA, Associated, and I believe so too. I remember I called it several months ago, this is a comet. And I know there's some people didn't like it. Some people didn't like the fact that I said, look, it's just a comet. That's all it is. No, it's not. Yeah, it really is. No. Not on Mars, yeah. No, unfortunately, yeah, that's a good question. Now, when you're talking about Saturn is an interesting planet. There was a question, could we land on it? It's a fascinating idea. I mean, if you really think about this, but if you're asking about the possibility, if like from a visionary or a scientific perspective, Saturn's environment, it's incredibly hostile for human landings. It's thick. It has turbulent atmosphere, crushing pressure, and extreme cold. It's uninhabitable by human life. And really, it's impossible, I think, to land. Even with current technology we have. Now, certainly with advancements like in space travel, materials, technology, who knows, perhaps one day, maybe. But as it is right now, there'd be no way. See, as of today, landing on Mars, that's our frontier. Saturn, that remains a distant, challenging dream. Oh, it is. It's very turbulent. There's no way. You didn't know it turbulent? You didn't know that it had turbulence? Or you just, was that just a funny word for you? Neophyter? I mean, anyway, I guess Saturn, he was a little happy, but anyway, yes, there is turbulence. Saturn has a very turbulent atmosphere. They have extreme weather patterns, strong winds. You love it? By the way, storms, they have a lot of people don't know. This is really interesting because I'm a space nerd. Saturn's winds can reach speeds of over 1,000 miles per hour. So let that sink in. And the planet has prominent, bands of clouds. They're alternating basically between lighter and darker shades, which that's created by differences in chemical composition and attitude, by the way, and altitude. So they have extreme stormy appearances. And Saturn experiences enormous storms that would make our EF5 tornadoes look like a raindrop. So it is quite violent. So and tumultuous. There would be no way that we could even consider landing or even putting any type of rover on it. It would be ripped apart. Okay, let's talk about this. Oh yeah, we got to do this. Nostradamus. I love it when people talk to me about the firmament. Do you realize that when they wrote about the firmament, it was 3,000 years ago? Do you understand that their knowledge of science was incredibly limited? Why do we take terminology from a book that 4,000 years ago and we try to apply it as if it's modern day science today? That is unbelievably, it's intellectually dishonest. And I think it's irresponsible. They were trying to explain what the heavens meant and what it looked like and describing it in their incredibly limited minds from the limited technology that they had. So for anyone who thinks that we live in a firmament because it mentions in scripture, that was because they didn't have satellites. So, yeah, Janie, it's fascinating, isn't it? The earth is flat. It is flat. Okay. Just someone's drinking, smoking a little bit too much. I mean, you got to put that down. I mean, I'm all about peace, love, and all that stuff too, but my goodness. All right, listen to this. What did Nostradamus predict for the 2026 year and beyond? Well, let's get into it. So as the year of the 2025 approaches and ends, thank God, we now take a look at what Nostradamus wrote in the predictions for 2026. He lived in the 16th century France. He was well known for his predictions for the future, and his name has become synonymous with the idea of prophesying future events. Well, whether or not you happen to believe in them or not, well, some say they claim some predictions have come true. But what did he have in mind for 2026? Okay, perhaps the most significant of the seer's prediction believed in a reference to, it says, the great swarm of bees will arise. By night, the ambush. Now, what the heck does that mean? Now we got a swarm of bees going around, and now it's got an ambush. Oh, come on. See, that's the problem. You can take this and twist and turn and manipulate this and drones. Perhaps. Did it mean drones? Did it mean literal bees? Exactly what this is in reference to remains a topic of speculation. That's what I thought. When I read it, I thought of drones. Some people maintain that it could be a reference to the war in Ukraine or to a political leader winning some big election. Another passage with a similar interpretation reads, 7 months great war. People dead through evil. The king will not fail. It's a reference to a major political figure such as Zelensky, Putin, Netanyahu, Trump. Well, then there is this prediction. When Mars rules his path among the stars, human blood will sprinkle the sanctuary. 3 fires rise from the eastern sides, while the west loses its light in silence. So a lot of people are saying that this could be, in fact, a reference to some conflict between the US and China. There's also a prediction concerning an area in the south of Switzerland because of the favor that the city will show. The Ticino will overflow with blood. And finally, one more prediction that seems a little bit more positive. Shadows will fall, but the man of light will rise, and the stars will guide those who look within. Well, who the heck is this man of light? Well, we don't know. But there's a lot of things. A lot of these predictions, it's so difficult to say, well, that's what it was talking about. I mean, I can understand perhaps maybe the idea of bees and it being drones by night, the ambush. Well, that's happening now. If you look at the great swarm of bees, are we talking about it? That's the thing. We just don't know. You can easily take these predictions and attribute them to something that maybe has nothing to do with it. Nothing. But there are a lot of people who swear by that these predictions are legitimate. And that's one thing we always do. At the end of the year, we always take people who predicted this and predicted that. So next Friday, we're going to talk about some predictions that will are going to occur in 2026. We'll also talk about several other things as well. Worker drones. Yeah, we just don't know. Indy? Now, here's a very interesting article that I wanted to share with you guys, especially as we go closer to Christmas. Yeah, Janie, there are several. When you're talking about the book of Revelation, a lot of people don't look at the book of Revelation as prophecy. However, I'm of belief that it is. So when you look at Revelation, because you see in Daniel and Ezekiel, you can see that there are prophecies that have not been fulfilled yet. And so when you break them down, you're like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. But when you're looking at the Revelation, matter of fact, I spent 6 months for 3 years in a row teaching about Revelation. So people have been asking me to do it again. I don't know. Well, I have a book coming out on the book of Revelation. So we'll see. All right, listen to this real quick. I want to share this with you guys. This is by, I don't see an author here. Why are ghost stories traditionally so popular at Christmas? This is by Juliet Wakefield, actually. Tales of ghosts and ghouls might not seem like the first thing you would associate with the festive season. Christmas, the author says, is usually seen as a time of light and warmth and happiness. However, in Europe, there is a long tradition of people embracing the darker side by telling ghost stories during the festive season. One of the most famous ghost stories of all, A Christmas Carol. It's essentially a ghost story. And it's a great movie. It's a great play. And one important reason comes from Christmas's winter setting. The northern hemisphere, at least, the short days, long nights of winter provide us with opportunity to reflect on dark topics, such as the supernatural, the author says. The stark contrast between our warm homes and the coldness outside can create the sense of a liminal space. Well, perhaps. The religious themes of Christmas also encourages many people to lean into the supernatural. Although, for Christians, the Christmas story is about the joy surrounding Jesus' birth. The specter of his death and resurrection are never far away. And many Christian Christmas carols mention Jesus' eventual death, such as We Three Kings, which describes the wise men giving the baby gifts of myrrh, an herb that is used to prepare bodies for burial. So ghost stories, which often encompasses themes such as judgment, retribution, have also been intertwined with religious perspectives of morality. It is argued that the rise in the popularity of ghost stories during the Victorian era was in part due to their attempt to inject Christian values to a modern secular society. And with Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, a prime example. They are, Patty. Yeah, they're on. You can go to my book to the face and the tube to the U. Now, the psychological value of the ghost story's communal experience should not be underestimated. The seminal ghost story, writer M.R. James began telling his stories to students and friends at Christmas Eve, parties at University of Cambridge. Gatherings like this create an ideal setting for sharing stories. The thrill and suspense of collectively engaging with spooky tale can not only entertain, it can create a sense of bondness, shared identity. It is interesting, isn't it? Because when you think about Krampus, the presentation that I made today, that very much is a ghost demon scary story. But for me, I've never associated ghost, hauntings, supernatural with Christmas. But that's in my culture. Some of you, perhaps maybe in your culture, your families, maybe you did. But yeah, I watch Christmas Carol every single year. But I've never really focused on the ghost, the supernatural aspect of it, rather than the moral, the story behind it. Now is the time to change. So if you're cruel and you're mean and things of this nature, it's time to actually be nice and not hateful. Do change now, because otherwise you may not have that opportunity next time. Yeah. And finally, I want to share this one story and then we'll wrap it up. TK Randall writes this: a Florida man in a car crash tells cops that he teleported into the vehicle. So a man who was a little worse for wear informed law enforcement that he was the victim of a teleportation accident. So we've heard some bizarre car accident explanations told to police officers over the years, ranging from a man who claimed that he was trying to avoid being abducted by aliens to another man who maintained that he had been teaching his dog how to drive his car. Anyway, the explanation given by the perpetrator of the latest crash, which was attended by officers in Florida earlier this month, isn't much better. According to reports, the man, 38-year-old, had been driving at 100 miles per hour in a stolen BMW when he lost control and crashed at Old Dixie Highway and Plantation Oaks Boulevard in Ormond Beach. Fortunately, he only suffered minor injuries, but it became clear pretty quickly that he was in rough shape. And while attempting to explain to the cops what had happened, he maintained that he had no idea how he ended up in the car because he had been randomly teleported in the driver's seat. Anyway, he was promptly arrested, charged with grand theft of a motor vehicle and driving on a suspended license. Anyway, you can actually check it out. There's an actual video of this where they released the cam. And it's you just type in on tube to the U, man crashes, stolen BMW, claims he teleported. You got to see this. It's just like, what? So you go on tube to the U and type in man crashes, stolen BMW, claims he teleported. I'm telling you guys, I'm surprised it didn't happen in Kentucky. Only in Kentucky. But, it's one of those things. Okay, I want to remind everybody. So tonight, we still have our night prayer coming in. So for those of you who keep telling you don't talk about Jesus. You don't even talk about Jesus. Well, you never show up, because if you showed up, we talk about Jesus 6 days a week. Anyway, so we have night prayer coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can join us on the social media platforms. You guys are watching on my platforms. You guys can watch it here. TikTok, you guys can watch it here. TikTok, stay with me. I'm not going to leave. I'll stay a little longer with you guys. I'm going to say goodnight to all you folks who are listening to this on our fine podcast presentation. So we do have this all on podcast, and you can go to my website if you want to, but I don't want to say it because if I do, we get punished. TikTok, Big Brother's watching. But nonetheless, so we're going to be here this Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are only on TikTok for Mass. And then 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Bible study. That's everywhere. And then 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have night prayer. And then, so we're going to be here also. Don't forget, every night, this coming week for Christmas. We'll be here. All right. So anyway, thank you very much for being here. For those of you who are watching this on all the other social media platforms, remember I tell you, your value does not decrease based on a troll's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless, and don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.